G'day my friends and welcome to Marty's Garden. Another cool show for you today. And look, thanks so much for coming. Check out the new show. I put this up a little bit late, the notice for this one, so not as many people knew about it. But generally we have it here, the show at 9:30 a.m. Sydney, Australia time. And if you've made it to the show, thank you so much for coming. I've got my water here, got all my gear set up around us, got my notes. And the topic is really about tiny homes. And can they have worm farms too? And the reason why I'm bringing this topic up is because the world's getting smaller, the population's getting bigger, and it's thirsty work. So, as the population grows and gets bigger, we want to actually have a worm farming movement as well. And look, it's not so much just about the worm farming, right? It's about turning valuable waste, or turning waste into something valuable and making it really, really awesome. So I think it's a really important topic. I know it's not sort of for everyone. It's not going to be the perfect topic for all, but it is something that needs to be reached out. And I really got to have a reason behind why I bring out these live shows and a cause and a movement and some way to actually make a change. And so, I want to be a part of that change. And so that's why I'm here. And I just want to welcome everyone that's made it. I want to welcome also worm wranglers that have come and people that have been supporting the channel. Now, if you want to learn about worm farming, you can head on to any of the links below any of my videos and check out the courses. Starting a Worm Farmer Beginner's Guide, Starting Organic Seedlings, a Beginner's Guide, some intermediate videos and a few others mixed in. And all the live shows pretty much go over there as well a few days later. It's a wealth of information. And really it's like mixed up with this small space gardening. I live on a tiniest backyard, a bit more of space around the side, but my small space garden is absolutely just, you can walk up and down in a couple of seconds. And I've got fruit trees in there. I've got all different types of herbs growing in there. And I save a lot of money on food. And look, the freshness is just, and it's a lot to do with worm farming and the composting and bringing all the biology and nature in to do the work. So I feel that as the population sort of shrinks or expands, you might say, that's probably a better way to do it. Look at it. A lot of people are moving towards these small homes, right? And you see a lot of the millennials moving into these small homes because, costs are just too expensive to buy a house at the moment. It's really, even though, it's easy to get in because of interest rates. If interest rates spike because of the prices, basically you could just lose your home. Same like what happened, I think it was the 80s or something like that, around that time. So, if you're interested in that type of thing and you're watching the live or you're watching the rerun, hang around because we're going to be talking about the implementation of worm farming and the benefits of it so you can grow amazing plants, chemical-free, pest-free at home. And what we'll do is we'll welcome in the audience now and say g'day to everyone that has come up for the show. Billy May, good morning, Billy. Nice to see you here. Your airport service. Hey, mate, how you going? I love that mycelium logo that you've got for your profiles. Just so cool. Chris Ruwald. G'day, mate. G'day, Marty. G'day, everyone. Welcome, Chris. Hi, Barb. Hello, Marty and everyone. Remember, tell us where you're from if you're saying g'day and, what it's like. Maybe is it cold? Is it hot? Has it been raining? Give us a bit of a rundown because lots of people around the world come here to this show and they just get amazed when they see people from all over the globe coming up to share and talk about this amazing type of farming where we can do in small spaces and large spaces, just depending on your scale. And so, hi Barb. G'day mate, all from Queensland. And Lisa, hey Lisa, how you going there? Good morning all. I like your shirt, Marty. Well, thank you very much, Lisa. This is I've got to do everything back to front. Yep, these new shirts that I'm getting made, and haven't really got them for sale at the moment, but I may be able to sell some to some Aussies in the future if they want them. They're not cheapest of shirts. They're not like a cheap T-shirt that you'll get. These like Velcro buttons, nice ties. They got the air vent underneath. They're the sort of like, if you get a bit wet in them, water drips off, and they're cool. And long sleeve, so out in the garden, you can be out in the garden, and or you can wear it to the club, as far as I'm concerned, as long as it doesn't get too dirty, because they're a good looking shirt. And yeah, so stepping things up, some logos on the car, got the nice branding, and going for it. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, the signature on the ute, yeah, it's really, really cool. Thanks, mate. A friend of mine who does the sign writing designed the logo for me. I just told him I want that Wrangler style, which is the old Wrangler jeans style font. And yeah, he come up with that for me with the YouTube on the side underneath. And like, it's big over the car, right? The car's a bit loud, but I want to get noticed. So there you go. Now remember, if you got any questions near the end, we just put a Q next to the question, and we sort of fire off down near towards the end of the video. Barb, I'm from Vancouver Island, Canada. We have 5 acres and just started gardening and worm farming for myself. Yeah, awesome, Barb. So are you going to be doing just small things, or are you scaling out into something larger? That would be really good to know. Fancy with the shirt, yeah. Well, you've got to start looking a bit more, trying to be more professional in here. And I actually really dig it. Yeah, I just really like it. So, and I'm going to be speaking at some events and things like that. And I figure I always buy other brand stuff. And I thought, why don't I just do my own? Yeah, and go for it from there. All right, so talking about sort of like these, I guess tiny homes I've put in the text, but it's really about small space, right? So my channel started off as a small space gardening channel, and I was a bit too far ahead of myself. It wasn't really taking off, and then it's taken off further down the line. And I've got this group, a community called Small Space Veggie Gardening Australia in Facebook. It's a private group of about 19,000 people in there. And it grew really fast over that whole COVID thing. I was there every day just signing people in until eventually I was just like, oh no, I just can't. I couldn't cope with it. It was just overload, and we had to sort of strain it down. I could have 100,000 people in there if I wanted to, but between us and a couple of admins, they're really hard to run. Barb, so starting small, who knows where it ends up. That's the beautiful thing about worm farming. You can start off small, and as your stocks expand out and you get better at it, you can then expand out to where you want to go and need to go. Most people that watch this show, we've got a mixture of people that actually are micro farmers like me, and they're extending out into selling worm compost and different garden products and worms and things like that. And then we've got other people that just have a very small space, and I've got my place set up for small space and sort of that medium style, 2 different sections, so I can show my content in the place. Now, I've got some things here. Let me think about this for a second. Now, I think the best way to look at this really is, this whole movement of moving forward. And as I said, I was a bit far ahead of myself before when I had my small space gardening website and all that type of stuff. It was really popular. YouTube was sort of like more about funny cats, and there was the odd camera video, and I was in there doing the odd video, really, not a high quality, but the content was still okay for the information. But the quality of content that's coming out now with visuals and sound is just way much better from me and many others. And, the tiny home movement has really sort of taken off. And a lot of people that are into that type of thing also want to have gardens, and they want to grow food, and they want to live more sustainably. And I believe that whether you've got a tiny home or you've got a medium-sized home or a big house, we all want to move into that more greener, sustainable movement and start using our waste and turn that into something valuable. And that valuable end resource is worm casting that can grow amazing plants. Now, I've got some plants here behind me. I'm starting to plant out now. So I will be doing some videos on planting and things like that. So if you're not into the gardening side of things, just, don't watch the videos. That's okay. But this is what I'm into. I'm into this end result. So I've gone out and bought some seedlings. I didn't raise my own seedlings this time. But I will have some seedlings coming up. And I've got some bok choy here, some different lettuces. And along here, I've got some of the baby spinach. And these are all going to be planted out into compost and worm castings. And they grow, oh man, And then just these type of plants you can just harvest off the side and make up little side salads. It's just absolutely unreal. And so here, I've got another thing here. I'll just bring it over. I don't have a tray for it yet, so hopefully it's not dripping on the floor. I just planted this out. These are Asian greens, some bok choy and some mizuna there. And they've been planted into worm castings. And I've got a video on that, how to plant all them out and how much worm castings to add and how to do the planting. So that'll be out probably in about a week or mid to end of the week next week for that. So again, it's like turning that waste that we have in our kitchen. You can see my kitchen straight behind here. Everything that's coming out of the kitchen is then going into the worm farms and then becoming this and then going into this, right? So that's what I'm all about. And really, like, because I'm on such a small space, I want to keep sharing that knowledge about how much food you can really, because you can really grow a lot more than people believe. And, you know, we can start off with something as simple as a tray, right? It's just a simple tray worm farm. And there's so many videos, not including my own. I'm just starting to do the tray worm farm videos now. And we just need some type of bedding, which we can use like cardboard. This is just egg carton cardboard. Any type of cardboard and newspaper are all sort of broken up. You can shred paper and stuff, make bedding up. And so you can easily make bedding, and you just need some type of grit for them. I've got eggshells here that get dried out and go into the grinder. And then you feed them a bit for their gut. It helps their gut. And then their gut breaks out, you know, a casting at the end and becomes an amazing amendment for plants. And, you know, obviously you need some water and you need some food, right? So you can break all your food up really small as possible as you can. If you're in a small space, you really want to chop that food up hard so you can cover more surface area on your food. Because if you're doing it in a smaller space, you want to be more efficient in some ways. Because, you know, like, you just bring everything down much smaller. So even the food that you're chopping up a bit smaller. When you sort of got lots of big farms, you can wait a bit longer for the food to be progressed through. And you can have a couple of these sort of sitting on top of each other or just beside, maybe not too much on top because if you get too heavy and compact it down. But this holds around about 10 litres and you can put about 6 to 7 litres in here. Let me know what that is in gallons, guys. And, you know, you can just shove that under your sink or you can put it sort of back in the back of the kitchen area. Not so much in the kitchen area, but like at the back of the laundry or in the garage, something like those. Or you can head for like a tiered worm farm. So I'll show you one here. We'll just head over to change the source here for the screen. And we've got one here. Now, this is a maize worm farm. These are the smallest worm farm you can buy. And I have 3 or 4 of these. And they're not a bad worm farm. And they you know, they do the job. They're designed for a small space, and that's what maize made them for people to put them. They're really nice to put on their little verandas if they got a little veranda garden, things like that. Now, when you're using compost worm casting at around about 10%, you very rarely go over 20%. You'd be surprised how far one tray of worm castings will go. It's enough for a small space veranda where you've got lots of plants growing because you're only adding it maybe 2 to 3 times a year to your plants if you've got perennials going on. And then when you're planting, doing seedlings and stuff, it's really only about 10% through the mix and a little bit around the seedlings and that. So, you know, it goes much further than what people think. And if you're using over 20%, you're really wasting your worm castings. And there's been lots of science to prove that. Now, we'll move to another one here. I'll just go back to my screen here and we'll have a look at this one. Hopefully this is coming through. So this is like if you've got a little small space garden out in the backyard. Now, a lot of people, they're out, you know, buying these underground worm farms and things like this, but you can actually get like an old second-hand worm farm or one of your old worm farms and you can stick it in the ground and it can become an underground worm farm. So like that is probably one of the easiest ways to do that if you've got a garden. If you don't have a garden, you're on a veranda, then you want to go for something like the little maize one or use the tray worm farms. But this is such an easy way to worm farm. And there are products out there. You can buy different types of underground worm farms, but this is probably the most easiest way to get started because it's connected to the garden and then the worms can move in and out of the garden quite easily. It already has a lid, and you see them selling and being thrown out the side of the road, and it tips everywhere. And you may have a worm farm that you're not using much at home, and you might go, oh, well, I'm going to stick it in the ground. It's much easier. Everything, all the leachate's going through down into the garden. It's healing the land around it. The worms are moving in and out and fertilizing the garden at the same time. So, that's probably the most simplest way to do it because it's away from the house. You can actually put a bit more scraps in than you would if something that's in the house and be a little bit more hands-off with it. So, small space gardening around tiny homes and things like that. You just got a little, even if you've got one of those 1 meter square gardens, what do they call? I can't forget, square foot gardens, I think they call. You put one of those in the corner or in the center, and you've got a self-fertilizing system, which you very rarely see taught. So yeah. And we will move into some comments. Now, if you've got any comments about this, please feel free to do so. And I'd also like to know, I'll just get this camera back onto me. I'd also like to know, what you're doing. Are you have you got a small system, a medium system, or a larger system? How many worm farms have you got now? And how many worms do you think approximately that you've got in each worm farm? That would be really good to know. And then we'll talk about, the production of how much material they're moving and stuff, and the end result, what you're using for the worm. So if you've got a question, you put a Q next to it, and then we'll fire away. I'm pretty sure we can go straight into questions as well. We've got a bit of a smaller audience today, so that will work well. We've got 13 people and 8 thumbs up, so thank you very much for the thumbs up, guys. Love it. We try and keep the thumbs up as high as the numbers of the people watching, so that is absolutely awesome. All right, so I'm just going to scroll through and find where we are up to here. So just Grave D, great to see you here, mate. I see you're someone maybe who hasn't shown up before, but just put a Q in front of the question. But how fast do worms multiply? Well, in the optimum conditions, they will multiply double every 3 months, even less at times, but I don't like to sort of push it too far. But you can double them every 3 months, no problem. And Barry Watler, the fan of the Tumbleweed, have released a new worm farm this week, designed to be kept indoors, available from Bunnings. I saw something when I went past at Bunnings. They had some on sale. I didn't know if it was the new ones or another one coming out. Tumbleweed told me they had one coming out, but they haven't reached out to me or given me one to review or anything. I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe they think I'll give a bad review, which I very rarely do. I just give, what I think's the good points and the bad points. But I'll have to have a look at it. Maybe they'll reach out to me. We'll see. I'm not going to go out and spend money on other brands for their worm farms, though, when they're not supporting me at the same time, because they get more benefit out of it than I do, right? All right. So I will have to have a look at it. I'll check it out on their website. There's no doubt about that. So it's good for small space, and it's called the Tumbleweed Cube. Okay, cool. Well, that's the direction that we're going, this small area. So you can see that, I guess you could call it a trend, but it's really just about the way the population's moving. And Mays have one out. They had the first one out. So we'll see, I guess. Chris Ruwalt, I bought 10 13-litre stackable totes to try out worm farming. They seem to be working really well after about 3 months. Okay, so if you're into your 3rd month and they're doing well, you've obviously got it down pat now, and now it's just a matter of just little fine tuning, not going too fast, too quick into big things, and just small fine tunings each time, and you'll find that your numbers will expand really quickly when you've got that many totes happening, right? So that's awesome. And they've got 13 litres in each one. That's quite a bit of material too. So you'll end up, with a lot of worm castings. Barry Watler, small system at home, 6 tumbleweed and 3 sub pods at the community centre, estimating 20 to 25,000 worms. Okay, so probably, like coming into spring, like by the end of spring, you'll probably hit close to 75,000. So you might want to consider what you're going to do with 75,000 worms. Being a community centre, I would be looking at going, okay, now we need to sort of move. Ask them, what space have you got? Is it small space? And then let them know. Go out and get a worm farm from one of the councils. You can get a discount and bring it out, and we'll give you some worms to take home. And that straight away, you're spreading that knowledge, you're spreading that thing out, and you're cutting waste down from going out in the landfills. And the people that are coming into the community garden can learn and watch from the community gardens as well, and then take those lessons home. So I love community gardens. I think it's really awesome. And yeah, good on you, Barry, for doing that. But I think if you guys go well, you're going to have a big expansion of compost worms, especially by the end of autumn. It's just going to be massive what you're going to have there. So think about what you're going to do with them there. I nearly got tongue-tied there because I got a super chat, and we're going to give an applause from the little crowd behind. They were a bit late coming in. Thank you, everyone, fake crowd, and thank you, your airport service, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. It really does help. Just any small donation that goes towards the channel and helping the channel run. It does add up, you believe it or not, with a little members group running and a little bit of sort of AdSense coming through the videos, and you guys watching some of the ads and things. It all helps. And luckily I can sell some, I sell some worms, I sell some compost. And I don't think I'll be selling plants this year, but I might be selling microgreens and growing baby leaf and microgreens for a couple of cafes around here, just so I get free food, basically, because it'll pay for the seed and stuff. But, even in a small space, I've shown that you can actually make a few extra little dollars just from having worm farming and selling some seedlings and selling some things like some microgreens and stuff to a local cafe if it's not too far away from your home. So thanks again, your airport service. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Billy May, I was watching a video the other day, and it had a work calculator. It is obviously in optimal condition, but it took place, the cocoons and all. Yeah, I've seen some of those. It's got to be optimal condition. And you got to think about it too. It depends on what the worm's eating, So it depends about the food, the bedding, temperature, the whole lot. So that's why I generally say about, like on an average system, double every 3 months. From my experience anyway. So, yeah, if you just come in and you just turned up and you're watching the show, we're talking about worm farming here. And we have a lot of people come in and discuss worm farming and share their knowledge and their experience and what's happening for them and what's working for them. And it's really, really interesting to have everyone come aboard. And so thank you so much for coming to watch the show. And we got another comment from Poor Philly Quail and Creepy Critters. Wow, that's a mouthful. My quail, or keeping my worms very happy. This is Philip. P4 Philly, New Orleans, Louisiana. How's that? That profile, dude, nutties. I know he's got a wine and a nappy on. Very cool. Thank you so much. It's a good laugh. And yeah, awesome quail. Love quail. And great little bird. Great little bird. Hopefully have some one day. Did when I was kids. So if you've got a question about worm farming, feel happy to put a Q there. We're talking about small space gardening and sort of like adding worms into the system. And, I think people that have sort of got these small areas don't really realise what they can do, by having a small tiered worm farm. Like we said, Tumbleweed have got one out now. Mays have got one out. You could have a tray like this. So you could be tray worm farming. I'm teaching tray worm farming on my channel now. And you can check those out and watch and follow along and follow the experiments and different things. Now, I'm tray worm farming to then take the finished material out and turn it into plants so I can grow amazing gardens. And I've got a small space garden here with papaya. We've got all different types of leafy greens and herbs and avocado and Brazilian cherries, and it's just lemongrass and all different types of sort of herbs for making teas and things. And it's all just in a tiny little garden out the back. And now I'm adding sort of a whole lot of leafy greens at the moment to add to microgreens to make more salads. And it's just growing in worm cast. And the worm castings, basically what they do is they help protect the plant in such a way, because there's all these enzymes and growth hormones and things in there that make plants grow really, really healthy and build up a really good resistance to pests. Pests prefer to attack plants that are a bit sick or unhealthy or have too much nitrogen in them, and they go for that because basically the plants sometimes too much nitrogen grow too fast. The cell wall then sort of breaks down and is thin, and when it comes along it can easily just whack its piercer in there and just start sucking away, and the plant just doesn't have the strength to sort of pass out the pheromones and things and let the other insects know, hey, there's such and such eating me, can you come and save me? Because plants can't get up and walk, right? So in the wild and in the forest and in your gardens and things, you've got healthy plants, they release the pheromones and let other insects know that they're being fed upon. And that's actually truth. They found out through lots of experiments, mostly with the tobacco bush a couple of years ago. They're doing new ones now. And I don't like to talk too much about it because everyone thinks, oh man, you're just losing the plot. But generally I talk about this stuff and then you'll find the science comes together about 2 years later, because it's just a matter of like, I've just been experimenting for so long now and seeing how things work, and also doing a lot of deep research onto scientists and things and what they're discovering and what they're working on improving on and going, hey, has that been working for me? Such as the liquid that comes out of my worm farm. There's been a large argument about this. People are still going to argue with me about it, but when you've got your worm farm bedding optimally perfect, lots of worms in there, and you haven't got too much sort of rotten material going through, that liquid that runs through the worm farm and comes out the bottom, if it's got some oxygen in it, right, it hasn't just gone stagnant and gone all yucky, it is super stuff. Now, there's a company called Nutritech in Australia, and it's really interesting because I was trying to find out why this was working so good and I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, this has got to be a reason. The worms are doing something extra than just producing the casting, because when I was using the worm cast tea, I was getting different results from using a really high quality leachate coming out of the bottom of a worm farm. Look, from a good worm farm, right? Not from a funky, stinking thing with rotten material in it. A good quality bedding, lots of worms in it, feeding, eating the food, and it's like a big sponge and it just runs through slowly into the bucket down below, and then you put it through the farm a few times, grab it and use it. Well, what they're saying, and they don't want to share this information, Nutritech, right? They're a world-leading fertiliser using compost worms for the organics industry, for that movement of moving. And if you know me very well, you know I'm in sustainable agriculture. I'm an agricultural horticulturist, and my background is organics. So what they're doing is they're going in and they're spraying it on a lot of their plants. They are putting it out, but it's more expensive to put the casting out, but they're more into the liquid. So what the worm does, and what we're discovering what the worm does, and we know that it actually has like a membrane around there. It's got its own sort of like inside our mouth. It's sort of like a mucus shell. And they're finding that on the mucus shell, there's a lot of other microbes. Thousands. So now we're talking not in the millions, we're talking into the billions of microbes when you've got the mucus shell, mucus comes off the worm and then onto the edge of the casting and into the water and into the liquid and then goes to the plants. And they're finding amazing results that are just improving soils really, really quickly by spraying it onto the leaves at certain times, onto the grasses and things. So that's been my discovery, and I'm going to be doing that again really soon. So if you're a small space gardener or a small space worm farmer that wants to grow these plants, you can see I do teach that method in the Worm Wranglers members area, that method exactly. And as I said, I get a lot of hard flack about it, but when it's done properly, and it's not just this little drip from a rotting worm farm, then it's the bomb. It just grows plants like no tomorrow. And you'll see these plants that we're talking behind me here now are going to be all fed in that type of liquid. And so it's really exciting times, guys, on that. So keep an eye on the show if you're interested in the gardening and the worm farming and putting it all together to use your waste and turn into something valuable, and then turn into something which is double valuable, really edible onto your kitchen plate. You just can't go wrong, and you don't need a lot of space. These ones here will cover a square, less than a square meter, and I'll be able to make like little salads like every day, mixing it up with a couple other things from out of the fridge. So just amazing stuff. So we'll go through here And we've got Marty for PM. Don't know if I'd like that job, mate. Everyone will start disliking me pretty quickly. That's a good one, though. Barb, Q. What is the best way to separate the worms from the compost? I tried feeding in one bin, but they still cruise in both the stacked bins. Great question, Barb. And this is something that people that know that follow me for a long time, this is all taught in the worm members area. So the Worm Wranglers Level 3. And you'll see a join button, which is next to the subscribe button, or underneath one of the videos, you'll see some links there. Go and check that out. Watch that video and see if it's for you. It's super cheap to do, and it's just a way to support the channel. And I teach you the professional method of how the pros do it without using sifters. It can be all done by hand really quickly. And it's a bit hard to sort of talk about it on here because that's like where I sell, it's like my book, you know what I mean? So I don't talk about everything that's in my book because then no one would buy the book. So yeah, Barb, if you're into that, go check that out and you will learn how to do that. And plus everything else you need to know about worm farming. Like I said, all the different worm teas. And then you can use all that knowledge to grow the plants with it. And there's some videos in there to show you how to get your seedlings started as well. So great value. And I know a lot of you guys that are here now are worm wranglers and love those videos. And have learnt a lot from it. Like you guys are worm farming, and I like to say this: you're worm farming your faces off now, and really enjoying it. YAS Q. In a tray farm, do the worms okay with leaf mold as the leaves decompose? Do the worms interact with the leaf mold? Yes, they do. It just takes a little bit longer to break down. You need to really rip it up more and create a surface area, create a leaf litter on top. That's really the way to go. And try to get something that's a bit aged. So if you've got the leaf mold, maybe put it somewhere in the sun for a little while, age it a bit more, and sort of like if there's any little mites and things like that on there or whatever that might be sort of, a bit of a pain in the bum into your tray worm farms. And until it's like crunchy, you can almost crunch it up and then you can put it on top or put it like where you're putting the feeding zone and you can feed around that area, and that creates this little carbon sink to soak up any of the like the sort of watery foods and things. So yeah, I would do it. Just be a bit careful with the mites. You want to sort of dry it out or something a bit first. Russell Rahman. I'm from Australia. Wanted to learn about worm farming. Currently I use just one big box to keep worms. Finding it difficult to harvest castings. Please discuss about this. Yeah, so as I said before to Barb, there's a full lesson in there in the Worm Wranglers members area. And you get access to a few courses in there, and it went down from like the two courses, like down from $60 to now $15, and it's a real bargain. And I just teach how to do that in there, and it's really simple. It's a bit hard to talk about how to do it exactly, and I can't give away that secret. I'm sorry, otherwise some people wouldn't even go and buy the course anymore. Then, so sorry, Russ, but yeah, jump in there and check it out. If it's for you, mate, you'll find lots of value in there. And you can also ask me other questions in there as well, and I'll help you because I can be your coach inside that space. Jeff Bridges. I live in a condo. I have no trouble keeping my little worm factory in the corner of the living room. I grind my veggie scraps and very carefully control the moisture to make sure I stay scent free. Yeah, there's some really good points there, Jeff, and I just want to sort of break that down. So if we're in a small space, like you mentioned, you're in a condo, which is a really great example. And, you did what I said before, is scaling everything down into a way, but still efficient. So you're cutting everything up really small, grinding it up into small pieces. So you can actually get a whole lot of veggies that's like that big. And by the time you grind it up really small, it's like this big, right? Then the bacteria can get on the surface of each little module, each little grain really easily, and the worms can come through and consume it. Their mouth is only sort of like about as big as, say, could suck in a coffee ground. So the smaller the better, and they're eating the bacteria on the side of the food. And then if we've got a range of foods that we're feeding it, so if you're getting a range of different vegetables and things, chopping it all up. Then we've got a range of microbes in there, a whole lot of different types of microbes, and they'll come through and sort of suck through that bit. Just remember to put a bit of grit in there, a bit of calcium, such as, a bit of dolomite or some eggshells. You're probably using eggshell, I would say, and just for other people that are watching this as well. So the grit is in the gizzard to help digest that food. And then you'll find, that probably, Jeff, so would you find that every 2 weeks it's going through it, doing that, or is it going through quicker? I'd like to know. And I think other people would like to know as well. Good vibes. Well, thanks, Russell. I appreciate it, mate. And hopefully, if you watch a lot of the videos here on the channel, you'll see that there is just so much information here. It is jam-packed full. And, you'll really learn a lot. And if you come Worm Wrangler, you just learn that all much quicker, really fast. Marty for PM. I got another vote. And you're welcome, Barb. Marty for PM. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Oh, I'm getting a bit thirsty. Yeah, cheers. Yeah, explore that and enjoy, mate. It's really a great experience taking these compost worms and turning this waste into something valuable. And as I've been saying right from the beginning of the show, we don't need a big space to do this, and the world is proving now that it doesn't have to be. And it's actually collectively, if a lot of people in small spaces are doing this more, then a lot less green waste will be going out. And green waste is one of the biggest problems in our world. Even if we're not talking about climate change, like we just take that whole thing out of the element, there's too much waste going out into the landfill. Even if we talk about take that whole green thing and climate change out of the equation, it is still too much waste. And we can just create like thousands and thousands of tons of something amazing. And it really helps us with our food security as well. And so it's something, I'm not as like a food security person, but I do believe that, if you look in history in times, we've had times where we haven't had a lot of food, and there's reasons when sometimes there isn't a lot of food available. It could be many different reasons. And if we can grow a little bit, and even just to save money, I do like the idea of having food security myself. Even my little business, I have a couple of little different things going in my business, my little part-time job, so I'm secure because I work for myself. If one part's not working so good, the other part takes over. And if they're all going great at the same time, I'm going gangbusters, but everything's going together. And so by small space gardening, we can, just by growing our own little salads and things, you just get this amazing taste explosion that just can't be beaten. You just can't buy it off the store shelf. And think about this as well, guys. Now, I don't have the plant here. Oh, yes, I do. This little plant here, it cost me $3 for this plant here. This is the baby leaf spinach, right? And you buy a bag from anywhere from $2 to $5, and it comes in plastic. Like everything's in plastic. It's just like single-use plastic. And you can just buy one of those for $3, and you'll end up with twice as much, 3 times as much nutrition, 3 times as tasty, and you can just pick it as you need it. You don't just, the bag's finished and then throwing it away. So you're not only just, like putting better nutrition and stopping, by using the castings in the landfills, you're also stopping using less plastic. And so less going out into the garbage bin and less going out. So, there's all these benefits of doing it. And that's why one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about not only just worm farming, but small space gardening and waste management. I think it's just something that needs to be spoken about more often. Okay, so we will go into, we've got Chris again. What types of worms are you using in your worm trays? Currently, they're pretty much dominantly the red wigglers, which we call tiger worms here. Now, they have the other type they call red tigers, but Avicenna fetida, I think the pronunciation, or fetida, I don't know how they pronounce it, but yeah, you'll see like on my channel, it says the world's most popular compost worm. Go and check that out if you're new to the show and you want to learn more about that. It's the easiest worm to farm, and they're a small worm, they only get up to about 2 inches long, but they're hungry and they can eat around 2/3 of their weight in a day when they're really hungry, and poop out a lot of castings, and they eat anything from manure to all kitchen scraps, anything that was basically organic at one time, they will eat it and consume it. And I find, they're my most favourite ones. I will be doing some mixed ones and some other trays and different size trays and things like that, just to sort of show the education. One of the reasons why I'm doing this tray worm farming is because I have done it before in the garage, and I just made too much of a mess, but I figured out ways to do it sort of more cleanly now. But I really want to sort of observe them more, and sort of, with the feeds and different ways to feed them and different types of ways of feeding them, such as powdering it, powder foods, cutting it down really small, and making different worm bedding so I can collect cocoons, and just observing the worm and getting in closer with cameras and things and getting a better look at them. But at the end of the day, it's still about, I was sort of drifting away a bit too much from the gardening side of things, but it really is, I'm a horticulturist. That's what I do, organic gardening. So, that's the main reason why I do it. And I will be sticking with that. And hopefully if people are watching this, they don't just bail out of the channel because they think, now he's always doing his gardening. It's not true. It's the conversion of it all and the removal of waste and turning that waste into something valuable to end product, which is something that we can eat or share to the public, or having community gardens. It's just, for me, that's just amazing. And, it's a big step forward to bring that, because not everyone is acceptable of it yet. Get this though, be poor Billy Quail and creepy critters. I sure watch your channel all the time. You're a trip and you make worm farming fun. Thank you very much. Yes, as you can see, I'm super passionate about it. I love it, and it's what I do. YAS. Question: Do you find me out what those worms you discovered a few days ago? No one's said anything. I think they're either like the other type of red, or look, I don't know exactly yet. I realised I have got some of those in my farms, but they're smaller than those ones. And that one, they come out of from the local landscapers where I picked up the chicken manure. So if you haven't seen that video where I've spoke 2 videos I put out, released yesterday, both on chicken farming, well, not chicken farming, but chicken manure. And so it really goes deep in it. And there was a worm that we come across there. Now it was bigger than the other ones that I've got. And that's why I was a bit like, well, what is this? But I'm really only been sort of focusing on species for the last few months, really. Because I've just had multiple species all the time, and always sort of focused on Acina foetida. But as because I started off with blues, the 2 different types of night crawlers and Acina foetida, and another one in there that come from Wormbiz. And so I think there was 4 or 5 different species in there, but they've all exploded and found their space that they want to be the most. And because I'm providing all these different habitats, in different areas and different zones, I'm finding, look, the Acina foetida does really well there. And then the night crawlers, I'm finding, doing really, like the Euros, doing really well in winter. My African night crawlers are slowing down a bit, but they're moving into the warm zone. They're doing good in big worm farms. Like I did this one about giant winter worms, and I didn't think that night crawlers could grow so big in a smaller environment, but it's really hot, that farm, in the winter, right in a place zone. And that's only about 2 days ago, that video. And they're massive, these big night crawlers. Like, stretch them out. They're like, and that's just in a 3-tiered farm. So pushing the limits and finding discoveries all the time. But mostly they're just, like the things that I'm farming the most in the smaller ones of Acina foetida, the red wigglers. Notifications came late today. Yeah, I think because I didn't get it out until about 8:30, 8:45, until I actually put the notification out. So running a little bit behind schedule. I've been lacking some sleep. I have this thing, what do you call it, when your throat gets blocked up at night and you're yawning. I must be yawning my face off at the moment. And I'm getting some tests and things done for it. I haven't been sleeping real well. So, running a bit behind schedule and trying to get some extra sleep in the mornings. Sleep apnea. Yeah, that's what I'm suffering from, sleep apnea at the moment. And yeah, I'm not looking forward to getting all hooked up and everything next Wednesday night and sleeping at home. But anyway, that's life. CS, greetings from Vegas. I finally made it to one of your live chats. I have one bin under the kitchen sink and happy red wigglers. There's also one bigger insulated meal shipping box of red wigglers. Now, under the sink, that's a great spot to put them, I think, because generally our kitchens are fairly warm as well, and they keep an even temperature. Things don't fluctuate too much, and you're right near the scraps when you're just chopping everything up and preparing everything, and just boom. And I think really the future of that in sustainable housing and all that type of stuff is going to be some type of worm farming unit, maybe connected to the outside of the house. I have seen them being designed, but as I said, the world just is not ready for them yet. There is one that Permy Pete's dad made he's from Wormbiz, and it actually is an outside unit that sits just outside the kitchen. So you open the slot in the kitchen, it goes through the slider and down into the worm farm. Super cool, but the world's not ready for it yet, but we're getting there, and just seeing like comments by you from this CS shows that we're heading in that direction, because you've got it in your kitchen and it's right near all that food source, and you're turning that waste into something valuable. So hats off to you. Billy May, question, I want to use compost or castings on my lawn. I don't think it would be something people would do until recently. Would I just throw castings or some well broken down compost and run the sprinkler? It's a really good question. And yes, unfortunately, people are mostly throwing out still chemical fertilizers, synthesized chemical fertilizers made from petroleum products onto their lawns still. The fact is, it's just so cheap to do. And most people don't realize that there's just too much phosphate and stuff in those. There's too much, they're very nutrient compacted, and the plants don't take it all up, and it does ruin the soils over time. So the soils then become hydrophobic, and then they're not taking in that moisture, and then they keep putting on more and more, and it just creates this bigger problem, and it all gets washed off in the drains and creates blue-green algae problems in lakes and rivers and creeks and all that type of stuff. So I take your hat off for you for doing that. I think if you need to sort of like dry it out a little bit so you can spread it out further, because when it's wet it's more compacted and you won't get as much spread ratio. So if you can dry it out and sort of make it into smaller granules, it will go much further. But you might want to consider also making like a worm tea and having some way of getting it onto the lawn in the mornings and the evenings, or just before rains and things like that, and getting the microbes like onto the leaves as well as down into the subsoil. So you might want to consider maybe mixing that up, throwing some castings out every now and again, and then looking at a way of getting like, you have one of those backpacks, if you can sort of get it down so the nodule doesn't get clogged up in any way. So you can go along and spray onto your lawns. As long as you don't have huge, massive lawns, you can do it pretty quick, right? So, and maybe, depending on how often you want to do it, the results that you'd get. And you do it more in the sort of like the warmer times. You'd throw out your castings in the cooler times. So when it rains, it's getting pushed down into the subsoil and sort of sitting there getting ready for the time to warm up, and then the root zone will grab it. And then, like in the sort of like warmer times, you would then spray maybe over your grass more often. I think that would be the way to go, Billy. So another Billy May, don't we all farm worms for castings for our gardens? Some people do it just for enthusiasts of like the farming side of things. Yeah, so not everyone actually does it for their gardens, believe it or not. I used to think that too. But some people just like to farm worms just for the fact of farming worms. And maybe they give the castings away and different things. But, yeah, maybe that was silly of me to assume that people don't farm worms for their castings and for our gardens. Yeah, well, like I said, I never thought anything of it other than that until being a part of YouTube and seeing that other people are farming worms for other reasons. And if you're one of those farmers, let me know. So actually, let me know in the comments box why you farm worms. The 3 reasons. Do you do it because you love watching it for the scientific side of it? Or do you do it for gardening? Or do you do it for both? I'd love to hear what you got to say, and I'm sure Billy would too, and others really sort of like, when I get these questions, people go, I wish I knew to ask that question. That is a cool question. And when you come here, like, wow, that's something that I would have not have thought to ask, but I'm glad I know it now. CS, 18-inch by 24-inch by 18-inch tall styro box that sits outside in the shade in our 115 to 120 degree Fahrenheit heat. I wet it every day. They are thriving. Sometimes I put a big Tupperware ice cube in it and keep the bin open. Yeah, well, great news. That's really good. And as I said, they're quite tough, and I think the ice cubes would really help. And look, it'll cool down again soon. So, yeah, we're coming into our spring here. We're still a bit of a way, really. We're sort of only just half over the middle of winter, but probably get a few more hot days. But that's great that they're doing well. And you'll find that as things start cooling down, so yes, that's when they'll start dropping a lot of cocoons. So get ready when things just start to stabilise just before autumn, depending on where you are in the world. Yeah, you'll find that you'll get some massive explosions then. Just when it's really hot, they're dropping cocoons, but it's not as soon as they get that steady temperature, bang. Barry Watler. Like the garden stuff as well. Don't know a lot, has only been gardening a short while at the community centre. Yeah. So keep watching the show here, Barry. I'm going to be pushing sort of some of the limits here. I'm not pushing the limits. I'm going to be teaching what I know. And I said I've got another video coming out this week. It's a gardening one. And what happens is that people, they watch one video and they go, oh, now he's doing gardening, and I'll just unsubscribe sort of thing. And it's weird. Or now he's only doing worm farming, I'll unsubscribe. And they don't realise that it's a blend of this whole mix altogether sort of thing. So I just keep doing what I'm doing. They unsubscribe or subscribe, all great. But it's more about getting the message out there. And the channel's growing, and we're not far off 40,000 subscribers now. So that's pretty good. And who knows, maybe one day in the next few months, I'll bring out a t-shirt line, or I'll get these on a little store or something like that, and start spreading the word. I think Worm Wrangler along the top would be really cool in here, and then have it like Eco Waste Warrior at the bottom there or something like that. I don't know, maybe something really cool. But I'm a bit bored of t-shirts. I want something a bit different, but it all depends what the people want, right? I'm just going to say peepaw. Peepaw. The creepy critters I sell for bait crickets. Mealworms, waxworms, black soldier fly, red worms, Dubai cockroaches, European worms, Canadian redworms, all sold for bait and reptile food. Wow. There you go. Can I give you a thumbs up? Oh, not a thumbs up. We're going to give you the fake kids applause. That is just so awesome. And yeah, I always thought about, that market towards, like the food market for animals. And I think it's a really cool way to go. It's not somewhere that I've pushed. I live sort of out of town, a bit far away from sort of those type of things. There's not much of a market for it. But if you're in a space and you don't have a lot of space, I'm sure you could pull that off in a fairly small space and make a good little business out of it. So I reckon that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's really awesome. And we have another super chat. And we got a double applause going today. Just had one, and now we've got... Oh, thanks, Chris, so much for that. I really do appreciate it. As I said before, these small super chats and everything that guys do, becoming worm wranglers and watching the ads on my videos and watching the videos right through really helps. If you just watch short bits, it sort of affects the channel a bit more because it shows that YouTube, that video is not exciting and that no one wants to watch it. So... if you can, watch as much of the video as possible. That really helps as well, helps the channel grow. Just these small, tiny things. So thank you very much, Chris. Really do appreciate it. That's just unreal. All right, we've got 26 people watching, 28 thumbs up. So we've gone above the thumbs up for the people watching. Thank you so much. If you haven't given us a thumbs up already, love to do so. We're talking about worm farming and different ways to do it, and how people are doing and getting the best results, and also, bringing it into tiny home environments, into these small spaces. So Tumbleweed have got a new worm farm out. Martys have got a new worm farm out. You can make DIY ones. You can make tray worm farms that I was just showing here before. I'm starting to teach that on my show now. You can become an enthusiast. You can get your eggshells and feed them to that stuff, the grit. You can make up your own worm bedding out of waste just around the house. Get some water, get some food, freeze up some food if it's hot, feed it to your worms. It's exciting stuff, turning waste into something valuable. I just think it's absolutely amazing. And just stoked to be able to do that and be a part of this. And it's really good to see that people are moving forward with it. And so if you've only got a small space, consider this, right? If you want to garden organically, worm farming is the best way to go. It is one of the most nutrient-dense, biological-packed soil amendments in the world, and it doesn't burn seedlings. It protects plants from pests and diseases. It has all these beautiful enzymes and hormones and things that make plants grow. And you just think about it, right? When you see, whether you're a gardener or not, when you dig a hole and you see a worm, you go, oh, that's fertile, right? So think about that, and it can really make a difference. You can use the water out of your worm farms that come through. You can make up different worm teas. And look, if you want to take it really quickly, become a worm wrangler, get into level 3. You'll see a join button next to the subscribe button if you're watching this on a PC or a Mac. There's links below in the descriptions to go check that out. And there's like courses to use that castings and those worm teas to grow plants and amazing seedlings. Start things off really well so you don't get these pests and diseases. Pests and diseases attack sick plants, and mostly when they've got too much nitrogen or fed chemical fertilizers. When we feed them organic products, and especially worm castings and worm teas and things, we get really good results. And if you can take it one step further and have a little composting system or grow in some compost that you can get from somewhere, that is the perfect blend as far as I'm concerned, from my opinion. Where can we get a Martys Garden shirt? That is a really good question. These aren't launched yet. I only just had these made for myself. But if people are interested and I get like a fair interest from them, I probably will start selling them. But look, I've got to be open because I'm always openly honest about everything. This shirt cost me $60. This is not a cheap shirt. It's a very high quality shirt. And, it's designed for being outside in the hot weather, in the heat. I've just got a singlet and a t-shirt underneath it, and it's winter here. It's quite warm as well. And, it's got vents under here and all the little pockets and zips and things. And you can tuck it into your jeans and go to the club or whatever as well. And they come in green, black, and sandy colours at the moment. So maybe I will bring them out in the future. Not real sure about how to go about it because it's about half an hour drive from where I live. They won't post them out for me. And if I just buy one, it's like $60 for me, and it's $10 to drive there and back in my time. So sorry for raving on too much, but I would like to get them out, but I just don't really know how yet at the moment. And depends on how much interest I get too, Gareth. So yeah. I guess just look, guys, if you're interested in these shirts, just let me know. Just say bang, bang, bang in the comments, and I can get a bit of an idea of how many people sort of want them, and then go, maybe I can get them out. Maybe we'll try, because I know more people. I've had 3 people ask already, right? Since they've been released. Lena D, hi Marty, great show. What would be the best potting mix with worm castings without any chemical fertilizer? So I recommend, if you can do leaf mold, like if you can compost leaf mold, that makes a really good potting mix. So little sticks and twigs and branches and leaves and things composted, that makes a really good compost. Other than that, any type of compost that you can get hold of that's not too thick and too heavy, needs to sort of be a bit aerated, a bit of blocky structure, and then mix your worm castings in with it. And then you'll find that you'll get a really good result. The other thing you can do is get a bit of compost and sand and mix that together. Be careful buying sandy loams from places. Sometimes there's just too much sand, and you'd have to you have to then mix compost in with it and stuff like that. But other than that, look for premium potting mixes. If sometimes they just got a little bit of the chemical fertilizer in it, then that's better than nothing, and you can still mix your castings through it, and you'll find that they'll still work really well in that situation. So Searles has probably got the best one that I know of in Australia that I would recommend. That's the only one I would recommend. And they have a very good sort of like, there's some biology in there, in that compost, in that mix, but also they throw, because they need to put some chemical fertilizers in there when they're selling it, because their bags sit for months, and basically, like those chemicals don't start breaking down until water hits it. So they've got their own reasons behind it, but I believe that they just don't want to pay the extra money for things like worm casts at the moment and change their blends, because people can still keep buying the crap that they put out. So get hold of some compost and mix it through, and go for it from there. I know I sometimes get a bit deep in the questions, but I just want to get an answer through that I think maybe 3 or 4 people are thinking. David Morgan. Could those worms be Lubricus rebellus, which are from Europe and are similar to red wiggler and called red earth or marshworm? Worth looking into. Yeah, I think I need to just take it. Since I've had a look, I haven't really had a great sort of deep dive. They've sort of gone spread out into the windrows now. So I've got to find one and then pull it out and then sort of pull it aside and get a good look at it. So it'll be interesting to see. But I reckon I'll find them again. And I've got a fair idea what they look like, and we've also got them capture them in the video. So I think that's definitely what they could be. It's more along those lines. I'd like to ask my mate Permy Pete, but he lives a fair way away and I don't see him very often. But he could definitely identify it 100%. Billy May, thanks for that. I'll let you know how the castings go on the lawn when I try it. I'll also do a tea. I often make them and aerate the water and put molasses in the water to feed the microbes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how you go. If you can ever get hold of like a cafe that just keeps the coffee grounds, you can spread that out too. That works really good on lawns. And it slowly releases. If you don't put it on too thick, which you wouldn't do anyway, you just sort of spread it out. It does wonders, especially under like around the grass areas, around beside near fruit trees and things. Really, really good. Phone covers. Another guy I watch has his own phone covers. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I just bought myself a new phone. I've never bought an expensive phone ever in my whole life, but seeing though I'm filming with Marty's garden, this is going to be a new workhorse, and I definitely need some type of cover, but something to think about for sure. I need to look into the merch things if people want it and are interested in that type of thing. I do have an opportunity with YouTube to have a merch, but I think it's just t-shirts, and I'm not sure. I need to look into it a bit more. They might have phone covers in there as well. YAS opinion. Love the fast way the worms transform organic matter to in 90 days. Harvesting castings every 4 weeks on a very small scale. Yeah, they can. Once you get moving in certain times of year, you definitely can start harvesting fast. And as I was saying, you don't need a lot. You can just have one small worm farm and one sort of 20 containers or something of different edible plants and different plants, even indoor plants, because it doesn't smell. There's no smell, and you'd be fertilizing your garden for free. And you don't have to go and buy any of those fertilizers. You're just using what's coming out of the kitchen and putting it on your plants. And your plants are going to love it twice as much as anything else that comes out of the shop, pretty much. So, yeah, awesome. So we've got 27 people watching, 33 thumbs up. We're talking about worm farming here today and organic gardening and mixing the worms together to grow these amazing plants and the benefits. So if you've got any gardening questions related to worm farming, please do. And if you've got any small space gardening questions that you'd like to ask me about, like planting with worm castings, using worms to grow plants, liquid teas, any of that stuff, feel free to fire away. Because this is what I'm all about, small space gardening. I've got the micro farm here as well. So everything for me is about small space, but in a big scale in a way. Like, it's hard to believe that, but yeah, I'm getting close to my 1 million worms now, and I'm on a very small space. And I'm selling compost to the locals and worms to the locals. And yeah, and one day I'll be selling castings as well. I have made many 5-gallon buckets full of castings, so I'm looking for an outlet for it. and I may have found one in those legal marijuana growing places here in the States. They pay top dollar. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. That is where definitely it's heading to. And if you want to scale out with your castings, then you might be able to find someone, they're going to need a regular supply of it. And so once you can get your regular supply, you don't have to go out chasing to sell it, right? They just like, can I have some more? Yep, order it in every 3 months. Yep, got that, sweet. You don't have to run around making more sales, more marketing. You're just building those ones up stably, I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, and building that sort of rapport with them and providing them a good end product, and that's how you build micro farms up. You work with the people and you provide them something over and over and over again. And then as soon as you've got a little bit more extra, you can find someone else to sell that to, and you sell it to them over and over and over again. A really good product that is, though. You don't want to be selling them any crap, right? CS, iBoth. There are tons of babies in it now. I've never harvested yet. Bins weigh a ton. Yeah, worm castings weigh a lot. And that's why it can go a long way, right? It holds like anywhere from sort of 60 to 80% moisture. And, you know, like they're finding now a cubic centimetre of worm cast can hold billions of microbes. Billions, because they're getting better with the microscopes. And they're understanding now that these microbes and the fungi and everything are all talking to each other below the subsoil to help plants grow. And the plants are actually letting the microbes know what they need and going, this is why we've got to be careful about thinking about NPK, right? When we're growing in the ground, plants are letting the microbes and the fungi know below what they need. And sometimes we mightn't be able to read, like in a casting, let's say NPK, and there's no N in there, but there's organic nitrogen stored in the enzyme, right? But they can't actually pull it out and say, yeah, there's so much nitrogen in this source. But it's actually there, and it's held within the enzyme and inside the microbe. When it releases it releases it out. And so, yeah, so there's actually more nitrogen than what people think. It's just not measured and sold in a way of NPK. The plant is saying, what do we want now? This is what we want. We're about to flower. We need some more of this. And it all happens down below. And the better the microbes, the healthier the soil, the healthier the plants, the more efficient that is. And we're finding now that plants that have got a high microbial count and bacteria, good bacteria around the roots, much better at frost resistant, as well as pest and disease resistant, and more heat tolerant as well. So we're finding out some amazing things. And if you ever get a chance, check out the Nutritech channel and check out what they're doing with making their own worm teas. It'll take it one step further, talking about microbes and biology and fungi and things as well. So Nutritech or Nutritech. Teresa Bear. Welcome, Teresa. Nice to see you here. Just set your playlist on autoplay before bed and rip it up. Yeah, that's the way to go. There's plenty of playlists in here now. Worm Nerds is a good one. I really like that one if you're sort of into that nerdy sort of thing. Then there's I'm extending another playlist, Worm Farming for Gardeners, and that's being added to all the time as well. And so that'll help you, depending on where you be on the channel. I'm trying to build out these lists and playlists to help everyone along the way. So we've got another super chat from Pea Pork, Willy Quail, and Creepy Critters. Thank you so much, Marty's Magic Worm World. We have the Artificial Kids crowd. I'm going to say thank you. Love the crowd. A lot of small clapping hands there. They don't clap for very long though, do they? They're like, they get easily excited, then they're like waiting for the next thing. So thank you much, Peepaw, Billy Quail, and Creepy Critters. We appreciate you. We appreciate you being here. And any small super chat that is added to the channel really does help. It goes a long way, guys, and helps Marty's Garden succeed and get the message out of turning something valuable, waste, into something valuable, right? So thank you so much again. We appreciate it. We say we appreciate it. It's me and my daughter because I take care of my daughter here, and I know the other community say thank you as well. Lisa Maple, just joining your live for the first time. So excited. I'm a first-time worm farmer. Well, welcome to the community, Lisa, and I'm sure you will this is it now. You will be hooked and still figuring things out. One bin of 500 red wriggles and have helped me so much You have helped me so much. Well, you're welcome. And thank you, Lisa. It is unreal to have you here. And look, I'm sure everyone else is really stoked to have you too. And we love that chicken head. Everyone, I'm sure, would love that. Where's that little head there? Right there. I've got to do everything back to front here. I can't even get that. But the profile picture and a super chat from Lisa as well. So thank you very much. And my artificial crowd of kids, well, thank you as well. They get excited easily, as I said, but they calm down quick. And thanks again. So we're talking about small space gardening, mixing it in with worm farming. And, we can have it through tiered worm farms, small tiered worm farms from companies now that are bringing out small space farms. And we can have like small ones set into the ground into our garden as well, which we can make out of DIY systems or buy one if we want to. And we can also do them in small trays, like under kitchen sinks, in the garage and things, and work at ways of sort of scaling it down so it's more efficient and we can turn over waste more quickly. And if we're in a very small space, the best way to do that is get some type of grinder or something that, excuse me, it's what happens when you're live, a few hiccups. All right, get some type of grinder or some way to sort of mash it all up and make it small, much more surface area, and feed that to the worms. And like I said before, I've shown this a few times, just a small tray like this is sometimes a really good way to get started, as long as you've got a lot of carbon in there. There's lots of good videos on YouTube, not only on my channel about tray worm farming, but I'm doing some stuff on tray worm farming, so you may want to watch that as well. And we've got a question here from Lisa Maple. What do you do when your bedding gets too heavy and moist? Adding newspaper hasn't worked much. So it could be that your castings could be like, if it's like maybe the castings are close to getting ready. Like, because when you sort of grab it and it squashes together, it doesn't release and it's becoming more like a clay sort of ball, then it's turning into worm cast. Other thing you can do is actually take out half of that bedding, put it into another sort of like another tray, and then mix up a whole lot of sort of cardboard and things like that. So go for like you're reblending again. And I do that quite often with some of my worm farms. And what happens is that compost that's already broken down quite a lot coats that material really quickly, and it breaks it down much faster and puts the microbes and bacteria on there, and the worms go and eat it. And then you just keep turning it over until you get sort of like what you feel is a nice comfortable amount. So try adding a bit more, take half out, and do it that way. And if you've got a question, put a Q in front of the question, guys. And I'd love to hear from you what you would like to know. We've been going for 1 hour, 12 minutes and 13 seconds. And it's been a great show so far. A little bit slow getting started because I think people weren't so, maybe the notifications went out late as well because I was a bit later getting it out. But it's stoked to have you all here. And worm farming really is the future for organic gardening, and more people are really starting to take it on now and understand that they can turn what they have in the kitchens into something such as a worm casting and liquid teas and things to grow amazing plants with, or to just throw out onto the lawn, give to friends, or watch worms just for scientific fun and bust a few doors down for, like all these fake things that people put out about worm farming. Prepper Dave, so I'm a little late. Hey, from Fairbanks, Alaska. I'll put that across there. Oh, I love that picture. Where's that image come from, Prepper Dave? That's really cool. It's like an old war photo of something. Joined the army. Something along those lines. But I love that. And I really believe that, prepping, worm farming is a huge part of prepping, because we can actually, we create our own fertilizers, and it's almost a way of being more self-sufficient as well, because when we're doing that, we're turning this waste into this value product. And, it's about efficiency, right? And it's actually, you're not going out and buying something, you're replacing it with your hard dollars with something that's free that gets a result that you would normally pay for. So in a way, it's becoming more self-sufficient. Lisa, a mix of paper towels. Just watch it doesn't dry too much. That's a good answer. Okay. I will buy a shirt. Okay, well, look, keep your eye open for it. I've still got to go in about a week or two. I'm going in to see the company again, and I'll have a chat with them about what I can do I do buy from a wholesaler. I just don't know, because I think they're going to cost about $80 Australian, and I think that's probably going to be too expensive for most people. By the time I sort of like I've got to cover some of that's, and that would even be hardly even covering my cost. Like $60 for me for the shirt, and then I've got to sort of pack it. I've got to drive up there and get them, and I've got to take it to the post office and send it away. So there wouldn't not a lot of profit really in it for me, but it would be a way to get shirts out there if if I could. I'd make $40 or $50 on an order or something like that. Then it would be worth it to me. Other than that, because I do run, it's a small business, so I've always got to think about that sort of thing. But thanks for anyway, and maybe, who knows, if I get rich, well, I should say if I get rich, when I've got more income, I can maybe buy a bulk purchase and then go, yep, send them out. But I sold t-shirts before, and I found it a bit of a hassle with sizes and colours and things, and then all of a sudden you've got too many of this and too many of that. So I'd probably just take one-off orders of maybe when I get 10 at a time, and then I'd go pick them all up, send them off and go. So anyway, maybe someone's got some better ideas of how to do that into the future. But thank you so much, people, Philly Quail and Creepy Critters. I do appreciate you letting me know, and helps me just think about it a bit more. Okay, they're talking about breaking up paper and stuff like that for our friends here. Lena D. Thanks, Marty. I stopped adding perlite in my own potting mixes as it's not good for the environment. Instead using cocoa coir for better aeration with a bit of lime. I think that's the way to go. And you can also use like, as far as I know, perlite is really just a volcanic material. So you got vermiculite, so perlite, yeah, probably. Vermiculite's not as bad. So yeah, I get that. So, you could use also, like I use a recycled cocoa coir, but there's also some issues around cocoa coir, the way it's farmed and all that type of stuff. But I think it's a better way to go. And you just want to look for sustainable places that are farming it well. And I think, a bit of lime, I think that's a good way to go. So I actually teach a potting mix for seed raising in my Worm Wranglers members area, and that's starting organic seedlings. But that's more based around, it doesn't really cover perlite, it's more like other things. I live in Jefferson City and St. Louis and Grey Summit in Mississippi, Lisa, for a couple of my grown children live there. I'd love a shirt, mate. See, there's 5 people now that have said they'd be interested in a shirt. So look, I'll just find out more info about it and see if it's possible. I'll know in a couple of weeks and go from there. I know that it might be difficult. I've got a global audience, so I don't know anything about sending it off to the US and sending it off overseas, and could be just too expensive, or people might just want to pay that extra bit of freight to have one. I know they'd be a very original shirt, so we'll see. I'll find out. Thank you very much for having this live chat. I'll be at the rest of them. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. Look, I understand if you can't make it to every live chat, it's almost impossible to do that. But if you can make them, I just really highly appreciate it. And look, we do have some people that do turn up every weekend, Saturday, 9:30 Australia time. And they really enjoy being here. And a lot of people have made friends in here as well, and have kept in touch. And we share a common interest and a common reason for doing it, and so it's a really good place to be. And then we all share our knowledge in here as well to help each other, and that's really important for me, is this knowledge sharing of an expanded community when we come in here and do this, because this is not really this fandango production, right? This is just about combined knowledge, bringing a topic in and sharing it, and then having the Q&A more towards the end. Hi Lisa, always so much info here. Cheers from Queensland, Australia. Canton Gardener, thanks Marty. I'm sure everyone has had seeds germinate and started growing in their worm bins. Yes, it's true, especially when they really start breaking down. After it happened to me a few times, I started using a 50-50 castings compost for seed starting. Yeah, cool, that's really good. I think you can, to be honest, I think you can cut back on, do what works for you, but I think you can cut back on your castings. I don't think you need to. I recommend usually no more than 20%. And this is also coming from people that have been doing it, like all the scientific experiments that have, of companies that have been using worm castings and universities and all that type of stuff. And they all say the same thing. Once you get over 20%, you'll still get the same result. And if you go over 50%, you actually can go backwards. So, if you can, maybe try it. Just, do a side-by-side comparison and see what works for you. And maybe try a 20%, 20 to 80, and then try a 50-50 side-by-side and give it a go. And let me know how it works for you, because it's all about trial and error here. And we're just going off like what I try and what I experience, and then sharing the community what they experience. And I think it's a really way to go. Help Marty's analytics. I've lost their dresser. What analytics for? I might have missed something in the conversation here. But if you're watching the videos right through for as long as you can, it definitely helps with the analytics for my channel, and helps me reach out to more people, because when you do that, YouTube goes, oh, wow, that must be a more popular video, and it's a good video and stuff. And people have got their attention spans are so terrible these days. You just skip, and they skip bits and skip back and rewind. I could see it all in the analytics, and I'm going, why did they do that? They just missed this really important part. And you see that I'm doing this, doing the big thumbs up or something, or showing something like that, and they've all stopped on that spot. So, if you can actually watch them through, or watch the most part that's best for you right through as long as possible, that really helps. P for quilly, quail, and creepy critters. Such a long, I'm going to go back to P4. I have a question on my European night crawlers crawled out of my bins when we had a flood here, and they're actually all underneath the carpeting outside my RV, because the dirt in the ground is so hard. They will escape when it's raining. Look, the pressure comes up, the humidity's up, and they're ready to bail. And a lot of the reasons, because they want to get away from the cocoons that are around, and they want to escape to new grounds and breed in new areas. It's just a natural thing for them to do, especially night crawlers. What I do in my bins, like I've got them outside and in windrows and things, and if they're not locked away, they can't get out, they fall down and go into other areas where they can crawl up and stay, and I just find them again later on. So you can create little traps and zones and things for them to do that. Underneath my tumbler, I have like another sort of tray, an open trade worm farm where they can crawl into, and they go like, oh, new spot, then they just hang in there. So it's something to think about, creating little traps for them around the place. Barb Sitter, how do you do super chat? Well, it's actually just below the comments box here, and you'll see a little super chat thing, and it just asks you, and you just follow the directions. And if you want to do a super chat, you can do it that way, Barb. And it's always much appreciated, so thank you. But yes, it's below at the bottom of this comments box. CS, I love how you most times have a list for each of your videos. We can easily forget things. I like to play your videos at the supper table with hubby. That's cool. Yeah, I try to list things out so I don't drift away, and to keep it more precise to the point. And I do read everyone's comments all the time, and I'm reading other worm farming channels comments, and I try and find out what does the community want, and where is the most value, and how can I help the community the most. So I put them into lists and bullet points and things, and as we know, we've got one here. And, like we're talking sort of really about the small space, and we can actually be a worm farmer if we do have a small space, and it's not as difficult as what most people think. And, we don't always turn over as much material as we would like, but we can start and then practice and learn. And we only need a small farm to actually make those amount of nutrients that we can make for free. And one small farm will do quite a lot of plants, believe it or not. And it's chemical pest free, it's chemical free, and the plants just love it. And when it's done correctly, there's no smell. So you can create these indoor fertilizers for your plants and things. And you don't even have to have something outside. It could be underneath your kitchen, and you've got plants on your windowsill. That could be just for that, and some couple of indoor plants. And you're just fertilizing them that way. So anyway, if you're here, give us a big thumbs up. We've got 40 thumbs up, 24 people watching. We've been going for an hour and 24 minutes. Wow. That is so cool. P4 I actually triple cast my worm castings. I use mealworm castings. I get fed to the black soldier fly who love them. And I feed that to my worms. So simply adore it. So I think my castings should be, yeah, mate. Sounds like you just, and you're having fun too. So that's so cool. Barb, it's at the top of the chat, I think. Barb's found it. We'll get to her in a second. A bit 3 castings. I can't wait to get it tested. Maybe it will be onto something. Who knows? We'll find out. Yeah, well, keep us in the loop, mate. Really love it. And stoked that you're here and sharing with us all. And YAS. Will we see that grinder you had last week? Very interested indeed. Right, so there's a video coming out. It's called, I think, all the products that you need. So we'll just go over here and have a look. I'll just go into my dashboard, content, and all the videos are here. And hopefully you can see that on my screen. And so I've got worm farming tools of the trade is a video that's coming up in the near future. And yeah, we'll be doing that. So worm farming tools of the trade, and I show my little grinder and everything that I'm using to worm farm and to sort of make with tray worm farming as well. So anything to do with worm farming in general, all my tools going to be there. So I think you'll like that. And yeah. Barb, super chat. CA $6.99 from Barb CTR. Thank you so much, Barb. Unfortunately, whether you, I think the crowd likes the artificial crowd, so they're all clapping in the background there, giving us the quick applause. Thank you so much, Barb, for that. Really do appreciate it. And everyone that's given a super chat today is really appreciated. And like, it's just amazing. It does help so much more than people think. They think just, oh, this little bit's not going to do much, but all these little bits add up, and you'd be surprised. Keeps Marty's garden just rolling along. So thank you very much. If you want to do that, you'll find it in the below the comments box there, and you just follow the prompts, and you can add a super chat to the question. Lena D, instead of having 10 containers with worms, I'm thinking now of putting them in a tumbler. Any thought? Okay, so I've got a video out. I think it's called, so if you go to my channel and then go to the search box and type in tumbler or compost tumbler, I think it's adding, I've got worms, and I can't remember the title now. It was about 1.5 years ago I made that. And yeah, you can add them to it. And if you've got extra, I highly recommend that you do that. But you just need to not tumble it as much and as often. And you'll find that if it's in a spot where it doesn't get too hot, yeah, they just go mental in there. So I never stock it up anymore. I actually take stocks out there, and that's what goes in a lot of my tray worm farms. Actually comes out of my tumbler and into these guys. And it makes a really high nutrient dense fertilizer because we put a lot of different materials into our tumbler. All right, so hopefully that helps. And yeah, there is a video on it, so go and check it out. And great concept. And anyone else thinking of doing that, go for it. Maybe t-shirts would be more affordable. Okay, so the t-shirts will be coming out, so there'll be an option. It's just a matter of me getting this artwork here onto the t-shirts, because YouTube do offer me a way to sell t-shirts, and so it's just a matter of me getting the time to now do that. But for me, I'm basically buying and making my own brands to wear when I speak at events and on shows and videos and wherever I am, to sort of like, yeah, get my brand out there and the awareness of what I'm doing out there. And, you know, I figure what's the point in me going and buying a $60 shirt that I want like this anyway and having another brand on it when I can get my own. So what I might do is something like what Barry said here, and take pre-orders and payments for shirts and order in small quantities. I think that possibly would be the way to go. I'd have to find a way to take the orders. Maybe I might do an eBay page or something like that where I don't have to have manage a website or anything. It's just time factor. But I think, yeah, maybe an eBay page could be a way to go. Or anyway, if anyone's got any ideas on that, let me know. That'd be appreciated. You can also contact me. My email is available on you find it in the channel there, and you can also let me know via that way. And I can take some, maybe, like, just depends on how much interest we get. But it's looking like it's going to happen. But some people say, yeah, they want a shirt, and then they never do. It's just at the time they want one. And then when they come to cough the money up, they don't do it. What's up, brother? It's all about cringiness. Welcome to Come Triple Bang Bang Thumbs Up. Good to see you here, mate. Super fan. And we all got a bunch of super fans here on the channel, which is really great. And dry out the microwave to kill anything that you don't want in your bins. Good tip, especially if you're drying out, maybe going to dry out some leaves if you don't want things in your bins. Billy May, I'd buy a shirt if you needed numbers to get to 10. Well, yeah, thank you, Billy May. I really appreciate that. Like I said, I'll speak with a guy in about 2 weeks. If things come, I'll maybe announce it again in the live shows, because people that are really interested in the shirts generally turn up for the live shows as well. And we can go from there. And maybe I'll put it in a video or something. You just need to see how much interest that we keep getting. Hey, mate, I have to go to my granddaughter's birthday. I missed last year due to COVID. If I miss this one, can't happen. Thanks, mate. Hooray all. Have a wonderful time. And we wish your granddaughter a happy birthday. And we've got the DJ horn here, bicycle horn, and glockenspiel. And the favourite one, party noise. I think that helps. It's pretty funny. Might drive you all bats with that. But Barry, I just want to share my love for your granddaughter and give her a hug for me, mate. When you let the videos play all night, even when you're asleep, it helps. Oh, yes, that's true, right? So if you go in and you see a playlist, just leave it on. It really does help for sure. So thank you very much, Teresa, for doing that. And hello from Ireland. G'day, Brid. Welcome, mate. Giraffe Rock. Your crowd sounds like the crowd on TV during the football in lockdown. Yeah, like small crowds. Yeah, like it's just in my software here, and it's a bit of fun. I don't know, it sounds like a whole lot of kids just, clapping away, but it's great. And it's just a way of showing a bit of fun and appreciation for anyone that does anything really cool on here, or also, like super chats. Thank you so much. We've had some great super chats today, and it's made it very, very more valuable for me as well, and keeps the channel rolling. So 24 people watching, 43 thumbs up, and we have 18 Bs just arrived. Hello, everybody. G'day, Marty. And thank you for coming. Teresa Bear, you could just accept orders via PayPal. I think if they understand that it'd be a pre-order and then it might be like a 2-3 week wait for it, then possibly we could do something like that. I just need to look into it a bit more. I have sold t-shirts before. I've done it off and on for years, off and on. But, we're talking sort of like worldwide, sending it worldwide, and that makes it a bit tricky if an Aussie gets it and then an American doesn't get it, and people get upset because they don't get it. You wouldn't believe the dramas it can make, but we'll see. We'll probably get there eventually. Worms versus the world. Hello from the USA, and hello and welcome to come. All right, so we've been going for 1 hour and 30 minutes now, guys, so it's time to nearly finish up on the show. Thank you so much for coming in. And before you all leave, just start saying goodbye to everyone on the channel here in the chat box and things. I'm going to take my daughter in around about an hour. We're heading off. She's getting a full style haircut. She's really excited. She was even up earlier than normal, even though it's like hours away. She gets a cut. And then I'm going to be out doing some gardening and looking at some filming stuff. And we put out 2 videos in the last few days, and there's some really good stuff about chicken worm farming there, the windrows, and some questions about, not chicken farming, using the material from chickens, such as the manure, and the good and bad about it, and why I think it's good, but what to be careful about when using it. And if you're going to use one manure out of all of them, I'd say cow is probably the easiest and the best one to work with. But go and check that out. If you've got an option for getting some chicken manure, then that may be really helpful for you. Please start saying goodbye to everyone in the chat box, and yeah, give us a thumbs up if you haven't already, and we will put some music on because I've got the theme song. Now, if you're new to the show, you'd know this song. I mean, if you're new to the show, you wouldn't know this song. It's a great song and it's really heartfelt, and I just love it. Sort of like to do with nature and bring some joy to people's lives. So thank you so much for coming. I'll start putting the comments across as you say goodbye. So cool to have everyone here.
So beautiful to see how we have changed.
Start rolling them across, guys.
In time, you know, everything we've lost comes home again, and I will grab onto your arms a little stronger than we were before. I've missed your face. Has it been that long? Looking forward to a fire and a sing-along. Let's stay the same as the children grow, and teach them all the simple things we thought we used to know. So beautiful to see how we have changed. In time,
You know,
everything we've lost comes home.
I think he's a Christian musician, yes, but I can't guarantee that for sure. But I think he is Michael Bublé or something.
I'm proud, you know, that we always held out hope. So if you grab onto my arm, let's take a walk until the sun gets
Bye everyone.
warm.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming to enjoy the show. I really do appreciate each and every one of you for coming along and listening to me talk about worm farming and sharing our passion together about what these amazing little creatures can do. The humble compost worm, they are an amazing creature and the world is yet to know more about them. We're going to keep sharing our passion, sharing our joy and our knowledge amongst each other so we can make this humble worm become a part of the world and start turning something that is waste into something wonderful, which becomes something valuable. Have a great day. Happy worm farming and gardening, and we'll see you at the next video show real soon. Remember, we have 9:30 a.m. Sydney, Australia time each Saturday. I am here for you all. Have a great day. Bye for now.